everyone, and welcome to Revival Fire Online. I'm Apostle Marsha Pedro saying welcome, welcome into the room. Welcome, Jemissy Wright. Welcome, Kieran Diet. If you are in this evening on this live broadcast, come on, let's just share a good night to the family. Hi, Anita. How are you doing today? Today, we're speaking about guarding the gates, part 2. We are closing up that message. We're closing up that. Series that's the second part of the sermon actually, and I have a really exciting time ahead for you. So if you are on Facebook, why don't you go ahead and like and share this live? If you are on YouTube, I know there are some of you on YouTube who look on with your families. You look on your television in your living room. Thank you also for joining. Hi S Bihari. Hi, Lucretia. Good evening, Lucretia. Um, and if you, hi Rihanna, if you're on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel and press that notification button because we upload new content every single week. Yes, we're speaking about guarding the gates. I'm sure many of you would have not remembered all the details of the last sermon, the last video. I'm going to do a small recap, but I want to encourage someone this evening. I'm going to encourage someone on this video that God is really sifting for a shifting. He is sifting, He's allowing a sifting so that He can shift you into that place of promise, into that place of provision, into that place where you are going to be accelerated in this year of 2025. You know, I have been looking at some videos, actually listening to some videos because I'm doing my work and I'm looking. Hi, Pascal and Savitri. Hi, Miss Lola. How are you this evening? Um, I've been looking at some videos. Yes, I've been looking at some videos, listening to some videos about this year of 2025, the year of acceleration, that year of double grace. And I actually heard that the number of the number five that exists in the Hebraic, and the number of times the number five occurs in the 2025 in the English our version and in the Hebraic version. It is that is the symbolism of extra grace. So there is an extra grace in this season, and with that, God is reconciling, God is reconnecting, God is calling us, God is covering us. But in the midst of all of this, we need to guard the gates. We need to look at what we're looking at, look at what we're listening to, look at what we're saying. So let's continue with the message this evening. And again, I'll start where I ended the last day with the scripture verses, Proverbs 23:7, actually where I began last day. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. And Matthew 12:34-35. For out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. A good man out of good treasure of his heart brings forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasures bring forth evil things. In my last video, I spoke about being mindful of the things that we allow into and out of the gates of our being. We need to be mindful of the things that we allow into and the things that we allow to be spoken out of our being. And I would have described the gates. So let me do a quick recap. Hi, Sheldon Mitchell. You're inside this evening. I'm going to do a quick recap on the gates, and then I'm going to go totally prophetic on you, especially what God is saying with respect to the things that are happening right now, real time in our lives and our families. And I'm going to give you some strategy from the Bible in moving forward. Okay, so let's press the accelerator right now. So let's speak about the gates. My quick recap on the gates is that there's the air gate. Yeah, we remember the air gate. We spoke about it in the last video, the air gate. This is a gate through which sound is received, frequency, whether it's a spoken prophetic word, whether it is the words of the world, whether it's the words of the Bible, the words of the world, the words of criticism, the words of appraisal. Though that's the gate through which sound is received. This is a gate where information is collected. Information is collected at the air gate. This is also the gate through which the spirit of Leviathan whispers thwarted information into your air, into your being. So this is the gate, the air gate, the spirit of Leviathan, that spirit that wants um to twist things, to mess up and mix up things. That's the air, the gate through which that spirit whispers things. When the air gate is corrupted, deception also comes in to corrupt the truth of doctrines in the mind. When the air gate is corrupted, deception also comes in to corrupt the truth of doctrines in the mind. This will ultimately lead to false beliefs, erroneous practices, and a falling away of the faith. That's the air gate. You all remember that. I hope you did. You do. If you didn't, I'm reinforcing it. That's the air gate, right? That's important. So the air gate, when it's corrupted, deception also comes in to corrupt the truth of the doctrines in the mind. I remember once I had a bit of a air infection. Well, it was coupled with different things, but it was definitely did have an air infection, and one ear seemed to be clogged, and it just was not going away. And what happened when that bacteria, water, whatever came into my ear? What happened is that it caused me to feel very confused, because I'm expecting some relief, I'm expecting balance, and I'm expecting communication, I'm expecting to walk and have that mobility. And when this one side, it was actually really, yeah, this side, when that one side got clogged, my perception was thwarted, and my balance was off. I got a headache. Think about the air gate, your air gate. Think about it in the spirit. Think about when that spirit of Leviathan comes and whispers something. It stops your movement. It inhibits your stride. It brings confusion to your mind. It corrupts and convolutes your speech, because what started to happen is that because I was just hearing with one ear and I was not hearing with the other, I started to scream. I started to shout, actually not scream. I started to shout instead of having a conversation in a normal pitch, at a normal tone. I started to elevate my voice. And think about relationships. When a spirit of Leviathan comes into your ear and causes that misbalance, relationships are affected, and we start having this shouting behavior. We start demonstrating offensive behavior. We start demonstrating behavior of, hey, well, I have no trust here. We start demonstrating behavior of, pulling back, so that's a lot about the air gate. When that deception comes in, the spirit of Leviathan comes in, and it really affects our faith. It affects our faith. The next gate I spoke about is the eye gate. Yeah, the eye gate. The Bible speaks of the eyes of the Lord moving about the earth, looking for a man he could use. So the eye is a real thing, and the body part of the eye is the body part is important. The book of Matthew also speaks of the eyes as the light of the body. If the light of the body is affected, how can you be identified as a believer? How can you be identified as one of those who carries the truth? If the eye is healthy, then the entire body is healthy. The Bible also speaks of the eyes focus on God and looking ahead. The eye gate is one of those areas that immediately feeds the imagination. And this was a big point. The eye gate feeds the imagination. How many of you have wild imaginations? I can have a wild imagination. I can have an overactive imagination. I think God gave me a very healthy imagination, a very creative imagination. But if the wrong information, or if the wrong input or the wrong ideas or the wrong things come into that imagination, I can go berserk. And many things are fed when the imagination, the eye gate is one of those areas that immediately feeds the imagination. Have you ever looked at a wonderful Cinnabon cheesecake? There is someone who may look on at this and they have seen a Cinnabon cheesecake recently. Have you ever looked at a Cinnabon cheesecake and say, hey, and your imagination just that maybe if I eat that Cinnabon cheesecake, the cheese is nice and comforting, but the Cinnabon is nice and sugary, and then the cinnamon in the Cinnabon is nice and appealing to your senses, and the minute you see this photo of a Cinnabon cheesecake, you become alert. Your imagination just starts acting up, and you just start thinking, okay, where can I get this? Or okay, if you're one who can bake, well, how can I make this? What cheese do I? So the eye gate feeds the imagination. When imagination is fed, ideas begin to grow. So you look at that Cinnabon cheesecake, you either think, oh, I want to eat this, or I want to make this, I want to sauce this. Ideas begin to grow. If the ideas are bad, the imagination begins to wander into areas that Christians should not stray. If the imagination is, if the information is bad, the ideas are bad, the imagination starts to wander. Spirits of fear, anxiety, oppression, and others are associated with such straying. Spirits of fear. So we look at horror movies. We look at horror movies, and every time we see a doll, we think, oh my gosh, is this doll going to wink back at me? We look at we look at we look at people, and they're walking down um roads, or they're crossing roads, and they're freak accidents, and we think every time we're about to cross the street, we think, oh my, am I gonna get knocked down? Is a car just gonna come out of nowhere and knock? That's anxiety. When we look at those things, we feed that if the ideas are bad. And oppression, when someone comes and says, well, I think you will not meet that deadline, and immediately the thought comes to your mind, oh my gosh, I'm not going to meet that deadline. I'm going to be fined. I'm going to go to jail. I'm not going to meet that deadline. I'm going to get demoted. I'm not going to meet that deadline. People will start thinking that I am a bad person. So all those things are fed, and are fed when through the eye gate. And the last gate I spoke about the last day is the mouth gate. Yeah, I hope you guys are remembering this, the mouth gate. And the Bible says that life and death. Hi, Suzette. Hi, Nigel, Parker, Lois. How are you? My dearest mother, Angela Ramos, Ray, Janelle. How are you? I can't say hello to everyone, but I have to say hello to my mother, okay? The mouth gate. We will again end where we began. We will again end where we. And the Bible says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Life and death are in the power. And the mouth gate is so important because you can end so many things by your confession. You can end so many things by your confession. The Bible says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. In Matthew 12, we hear that we would be held accountable for the careless words that we speak. Yeah? In Genesis, God spoke and created the earth. So again, that's something coming out of us. Creativity, ideas, words that are coming out, and we are allowing them to come out. He gave us the ability to speak words and have an effect on the universe. Yeah? So you guys would have remembered all of this. I hope so. This was totally new content that I brought out last week. So let's go again and let's continue. Today is a continuation of a series of messages that will assist us in positioning to end 2025 strong. And we will continue to look at the gates and try to reposition ourselves on the offensive as we move forward. Come on, right? Type in the comments. I am repositioning myself on the offensive. Let me see some comments. I am repositioning myself on the offensive. I am on the offensive. We need to stop looking around corners. We need to stop trying to run from the enemy, and we need to stop being on the defensive when the fiery darts come. And the Lord has actually just given me an animation today about some information that I got, and I said to him, I said, God, how do I deal with this? I asked God for strategy for every single thing in my life. I said, God, how do I deal with this news? Because it is obviously affecting me, because it's about someone I love very much and care about. And he says, here's what you do. And he says, literally, I saw a soldier in the spirit, and he said, this is what you do in the spirit. And I saw this picture with this big soldier and a shield of faith, and he said, you lift it higher. You lift it high where it can protect your eyes, your mouth. You lift that shield of faith high where all the gates are the gates are where all the gates are protected until you can face it again. And I'm saying to someone, you may have gotten some bad news, you may have gotten some disappointing news. What you need to say is, Father, I decree and I declare, and Father, help me to lift that shield of faith. Lift that shield so that my gates are protected until I can even perceive natural information to move forward. Yeah. So let's go to, before I go further, I really want to emphasize that there are some gates that God is calling us as individuals and the church to rebuild. That's important. I know someone put a lot of notes there. Continue taking notes, whether it's on the chat or individually. God is calling us as individuals and the church to rebuild some gates. There are some of us who've been experiencing extremes in different areas of life, and God is preparing you for your dominion in that area. There are some of you who've been experiencing different extremes. You've come into 2025 and you've been experiencing extremes. I know Florida had extreme weather. They're actually having some snowfall, and that they haven't gotten that for many, 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 many years. And they, we actually say the sunny Florida, the sunny state of Florida, and they've just gotten snow, and of course they will be playing in the snow and all of that. But I can think of the vegetation, I can think of the animals, and I can think, and even so they still had some cold. But there are some of us, it is as if we were living in a tropical world, and we just got up, we just started off, and we came into, from the end of 2024 to the end of 2025, as we would say, the tempo was just up. Things were accelerated, and feel as if things were coming against us one after the next, after the next, after the next. And God is preparing you for dominion in that area. Whatever the area is, God is preparing you for dominion in that area. So let me tell you some of the things that God specifically spoke to me about. One of the things that he spoke to me about is the area of family conflict. The area of family conflict. There are some who entered the year with the family in conflict. God is giving you the voice of peace and wisdom. God is giving you the voice of peace and wisdom. Many have become frustrated because they are not seeing change. Many of you have become frustrated because you are not seeing change. It is a plan of the enemy to cause you to become deflated and stop speaking. It is a plan of the enemy to cause you to become deflated and stop speaking. God is saying that your voice is the tool that he has given you, and you have a choice. Your voice, your choice. So that's your thing. Those of you who came in with the family, who came in and your family is in conflict, There are some who entered the year with conflict coming against your family. And I know there are several, whether it is sickness, whether it was conflict with other people, whether it was some sort of resistance. That's what I mean when I say conflict. There are some who enter the year with conflict coming against your family. It started in 2024 and got worse in 2025. The plan of the enemy is to cause you to get so tired that you stop praying. I want someone to type, I will not stop praying. Listen, I want you to stay to the end of this video because I'm really talking about a strategy of rebuilding and defending. Do not stop praying. I will not stop praying. The enemy wants you to stop praying. That's something God showed me. The enemy wants you, Marsha, Pedro, to stop praying and believing. The enemy wants you, Charmaine, to stop praying and believing. The enemy wants you, Jimmy Sweet, to stop praying and believing. You are engaging in battles and unnecessary activity on the earth when you stop praying. This is taking your gaze away from the plan of heaven when you stop praying. The enemy is saying this marriage does not make sense. Just stop praying. The enemy is saying this life of morality does not pay off. Just stop adhering to righteousness. The enemy is saying is this sickness is unto death. Just agree with the doctor's reports. We have listened to so many opinions and thoughts during the time. We should not, during the time, we should have been in the master's court. We've listened to the doctor's report, and nothing is wrong with doctors. I love them. I have many that are dear to my heart, and they know themselves. But sometimes we've listened to so many opinions and thoughts during the times when we should have been in prayer in the master's courts. We should have been in prayer. Don't stop praying and don't stop saying, guard the gates of the family. Guard that gate. Guard the gates of the family. So one of the things is family conflict. And the other thing, which is a really, really, really big thing. And I was like, wow, God, I thank you that you're speaking to me, firstly, and you're speaking to your people. Because, the other thing is personal conflict. Personal conflict. There are more people who have turned away from the faith during the past 4 years than we actually realize. I was actually speaking to my mother, and she told me of a family because I was speaking of a family, who that family is a wonderful testimony of God's kindness and God's salvation and God's provision and God's everything. And I was speaking to her, and I said to her, have you seen them? And and she said, well, the patriarch no longer attends the church, and she was saying, and I felt really sad. But the fact of the matter is, there are more people who have turned away from the faith during the past 4 years than we realize. In 2020, if you had asked these people where they'd be in 2025, they would tell you a story. I would be in a deeper relationship with God. They would probably have said that, they would go out in the world and they would take a greater part into the mountain that they were called to take. If they in 2020, they would have told you that this is what I do in 2025. I would go out into the world. I would bite a big chunk of that entrepreneurial market. I would go out into the world and I will write papers and do research and bring some new science and technology. I would go out into the world and I will do business, and I will take the stock market, and I will be one of the Fortune 500 companies. They will tell you that in 2020, but today is 2025 and they're not even in right standing with God. They're not walking with God. They're not walking in their purpose, and they're not walking with Him. Why are they in this place, you may ask? Let me tell you why. There was an underlying internal conflict that was escalated when met with the external worldwide calamity of COVID-19. There was an underlying internal conflict that was escalated. It just went zoop. It was something that's underlying. It's something that was hidden and it just went zoop. And when it was met with the external worldwide calamity of COVID-19, things just fell apart. There were several personal things that people lacked in their lives. And in this season, if we are to stand at the gates, if we are to guard at the gates, if we are to be mindful at the gates, we need to guard the personal conflict. And there's some things we need to that is lacking in our lives. And one of the things that is lacking is confidence. Confidence. Confidence is not loud, but it speaks volumes when you enter a room. That's what I mean. Confidence. It's not popular, but it draws people to your wisdom. And when I say your wisdom, I mean the wisdom that God has given to you. That's confidence. Confidence comes from a deep place of faith within you. That's confidence. A deep place of faith. Many people lack wisdom when their faith was challenged in 2020. Many people. 2020 was a shaking and 2025 is a sifting. 2020 was a shaking and wow, it's 5 years. It's 5 years. 2020 was a shaking, 2025 is a sifting, and wait and see what 2030 will hold. A great building. From now till then, let's get with the confidence. Confidence is not naive, but knows that comfort is waiting in the non-judgmental arms of Father if there is a fall. And that's what they did not have. They did not have that confidence that God will hold them. They did not have that knowledge. They did not have that security. They did not buy in to that. They did not buy into that glue of sonship. Yeah, you're understanding me. They did not. Confidence is the thing. It's a result that says I've bought into the glue of sonship, and even if I fall, I'm glued. Even if I fall, je me suis, I'm glued. Even if I fall, the pieces are not going to never come back together again, Lola. I'm glued. I'm glued because I'm a son. I'm glued because I'm a son. That's confidence. Even if, yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of that, even if I see a skeletal remain on this side and I see a coffin on this side and I don't know the other things that we see. I see a tombstone. Even though I walk, yea, do I walk through, but I will fear none. I will not fear because I have a confidence, that glue, that I'm a son. That's confidence. Yeah, if they had confidence, they would have gone through and come out stronger after 2020. Confidence is humble but never mistaken for a place of oppression. It is brave enough to stay in the lane and wait its turn. That's one of my favorite things. Stay in your lane and wait your turn. Confidence is brave enough to stay in the lane and wait its turn. Finally, confidence comes from a deep encounter and deep surrender. Confidence comes from a deep encounter and deep surrender. People who do not surrender their lives will face the personal conflict of holding on to it. People who do not surrender their lives will face the personal conflict of holding on to it. Life was given to us and the natural way, the way God created, so that we would give it back to Him in serving Him. But He gave us a choice. So for those who are holding on to their lives, they have a conflict right now. Many have deep encounters and forget the path to glory. They try again in their self-confidence and fail because surrender did not become a part of their lifestyle. So one of the things, when we speak of personal conflicts and guarding at the gates, one of the things that is lacking is confidence. Confidence. And I want to go sort of quickly now. Confidence. Another thing that is lacking is conviction. Another thing that is lacking is conviction. Conviction comes when we have conversation, whether it's through our hearts or through prophetic message with Holy Spirit. That's conviction. People who reach the stage of conflict have not yielded to the subtle correction in their daily walk. They have not yielded to the subtle correction in their daily walk. As such, these people, they become numb, creating their own beliefs instead of the standard truth of the word. Conviction is a trigger that's that says to deny entry of certain information, conversation, relationship through the gates. That's conviction. It's a trigger that says, hey, we cannot have this conversation. We cannot have this conversation. Conviction is a trigger that says, hey, I cannot continue with this relationship. Whoa, this relationship is not one that is keeping my gates tidy. This relationship is distracting me. This relationship is feeding me the wrong ideas. This relationship is causing me to hear. So conviction is a trigger that says to bar entry of a certain information, conversation, or relationships through the gates. When conviction becomes convenient, God's voice becomes muted in your life and world. When conviction becomes convenient, God's voice becomes muted in your life and in your world. So we spoke of confidence, we spoke of conviction, and I'm going to speak of the last part, and then I'm going to teach you how to handle when you're challenged at the gates. Consistency. Consistency breeds results, and inconsistency breeds shame, excuses, and regret. Consistency breeds results, and inconsistency brings shame, excuses, and regret. Personal conflicts come about when the mind, heart, body connection allow anti-elements into the gates. Against elements. If you stop to think about it, many of us want to read the word daily and meditate, yeah? Many of us, all of us actually, I believe, we want to read and meditate on the word daily. We have a good resolution, a good New Year's resolution. We read and meditate on the word daily. However, somewhere in between resolution and demonstration, the thoughts of falling asleep while doing it, it comes up. And we think, oh, somewhere between the 31st of December and the 3rd of January, between resolution and demonstration, somewhere in between that gap, thoughts come into our mind. The thoughts of falling asleep while we try to read. We may have spoken to someone who said that they once tried a Bible reading app and they fell asleep. We may have thought about the time that we could have slept. I know there's actually someone who said they could not get up early to pray, or they could not get up early because they need to get their certain amount of sleep, because they were fearful that if they did not get that amount of hours of sleep that day, they would get in a terrible accident, or that they would not operate at their maximum potential when they go to work, and they would make errors. And if you make financial errors, or certain types of errors are worse than others, and they felt, wow, if I do not get enough sleep, I'm going to make errors. So they did not wake up early or go to bed a little later to read. We may have thought just how tired we would be. Another anti-resolution idea pops up. And these anti-resolution, anti-elements, anti means against, anti-elements, against everything that cultivates a behavior of consistency. And where do these ideas come? And where do these habits and these words come? They come through the gates. They come through the gates. This eventually will cause us to give up the task altogether and never attempt again. Inconsistency is a great flaw, and it eventually leads to one aborting any task that requires focus and time. it eventually leads to one aborting any task that requires focus and time. So I just spoke of two conflicts, of two things, your family conflict. I spoke of your personal conflict. Now let's speak about what do you do when the gates are challenged. What do you do in the gates when they are challenged? I'm going to speak specifically from the book of Nehemiah. First thing we must do is understand why adversity comes. We must understand why adversity comes. I want to advise, as I said, from the book of Nehemiah, as we move forward. In the case of Nehemiah, we have Sanballat and Tobiah rising up against the work. Their opposition was politically motivated, as the rebuilding of the wall posed a threat to Samaria and as the political center of Judea. Sanballat was the governor. Nehemiah's rebuilding of the wall and restoring Jerusalem would have threatened his position. Your gates, guarding your gates, your uprising, your acceleration in 2025 is threatening someone's anti-desire, anti-God, anti-success, it is threatening someone's desire to move ahead of you. It is threatening your repositioning, your being on the offensive is threatening someone. Tobiah was a governor and a friend of Sanballat. The enemy wishes to derail your building because you are dethroning him in your life. You are dethroning the enemy in your life when you are defending and rebuilding your gates and your walls. That's what you're doing. In this season, and I'm speaking specifically about the gates, I will interchange the gates and the walls, okay, but we understand what I'm saying. As you build and defend, you are building something that will endure. You are building something that will endure. This time it's going to last. Come on. Come on. I need someone to confess that. Whether you are in your vehicle, you are online, you are in KFC listening to me. This time it's going to last. This thing is going to last. This time it's going to last. The enemy comes with words of humiliation and tries to devalue what you are doing. The enemy is trying to water down your prayer and stop your worship by telling you that God is not hearing and everything will fall apart. This time it's going to last. This time it's going to last. I will not read the scripture verse, okay? But you just look at Nehemiah chapter 4, verses 1 to 13. Just read Nehemiah chapter 4. Read the entire book. And you would understand why the enemy, the first thing that is happening, what do we do when our gates are challenged? We must understand why adversity. When we understand why why adversity comes, then we can move forward. The second thing we're going to do is get your support system. Get your support system. You cannot do this alone. Thank you guys for coming on, whether it's on the replay, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, even it's on the wherever you are. Thank you for coming on, because you are saying, I have a support system, I have a community, and I need one. Second thing you do is get your support system. You cannot do this alone. The enemy wishes to isolate you in this season. With every news report, with every gossip, the enemy wishes to instill fear and doubt. What did Nehemiah do? He put up a support system. Listen, there are times I have to call my intercessors, leaders, someone, and say, hey, I need you to keep this in prayer. Hey, I need you to keep this in prayer. There are times I tell my husband, I'm sharing this information. Let's agree in prayer about it. We need a support system. So we get a support system. What did Nehemiah put up a support system? He stationed them in families. Today, In this season of guarding the gates, of building and defending, our families are those who walk with the DNA of heaven and the mind of Christ. They walk with the DNA of heaven and the mind of Christ. So that's the second thing we do. Thirdly, what did Nehemiah do and what do we do? Identify the exposed areas. There are areas in the gates that are exposed. Listen, I have areas in my gates that were exposed in 2024, and the Lord allowed me to go through. And I only found out at the end of 2024, and in 2025, no, it's no longer exposed, covered, closed. Listen, whether it's closed, covered, excommunicated, whatever, you need to make sure that those exposed areas are identified. We all have areas of our lives where we need Holy Spirit to expose and heal. We need to be transparent to Him in prayer and submit to the process. We need to also be honest with ourselves and those who God has placed in our lives as spiritual covering over us. There are many, many people, and I know they're going through stuff, but they never open up. And, in the past, I would prod, but I've learned that, God said something to me. He said, Marsha, you don't go try to find your tribe. Your tribe is going to come to you. Your tribe is going to be attracted by the things that you have. When plants don't go telling, or flowers don't go saying to bees, hey, I have pollen, no, bees are attracted to the pollen. Your people, the people who you need to submit to, you will find them, you will know them, they will come around, and you need to be honest with yourselves, and you need to speak up, because many times we remain isolated, and what happens, we become so tolerant of the exposure at the gates, and we become numb, that then the exposure becomes a free way for the enemy to move in and out, back and forth in our lives and in our minds. And that's when we have open doors, we develop strongholds, and we invite all sorts of things in our life. So we need to also be honest with ourselves and those who God has placed in our lives with spiritual covering over us. Fourthly, we need to know our weapons and be ready to use them. Remember, I spoke about prayer. That's one of the things that the enemy does not want you to use. I spoke about speaking. We need to know our weapons and be ready to use them. In this season, we cannot allow the enemy to blind our eyes to our authority in the spirit. We have spiritual weapons, and we need to become acquainted with them. Prayer, fasting, declarations, and speaking in tongues are some of our spiritual weapons. And we see that in Nehemiah in verse 14. Fifth thing we do is we take a position. Listen, I am I encourage children to have an opinion. I work a lot with children under the age of 12, or teenagers, and until 3 till 18. And many times I say to them, what would you like to have? I don't know. When children start saying, I don't know, they become adults who start saying and demonstrating, I don't know. And the enemy works with I don't know. People who do not have a position, people who do not have an opinion, people who do not know what they need, want, and deserve are people who will be pushed over and trampled. We need to take a position. Joshua said, as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. Nehemiah looked things over and he took a position. What did he do? He addressed the leaders, and sometimes we need to speak to ourselves and remind ourselves of the battle plan. This week, I needed to remind myself, Marsha, here's the plan. Here's what you'll do. Here's how you behave. And when I became overwhelmed, I said, God, give me a strategy. And that's when he said, listen, if you can't make sense of something right now, just lift that shield of faith way really high, so that it can protect all the gates. Protect the gates, protect everything until you can get a strategy and move forward in the battle. Sixthly, Sixthly, we need to make a declaration. Prayer is speaking to God, but declaration is uttering the heart of God over the earth. Many of us go pray, supplication, beg God, but we need to make a declaration. When you make a declaration, you shatter the plans of the enemy and you also encourage yourself. I decree and I declare that healing is in my family. I decree and I declare that healing is coming this weekend. I decree and I declare finances are open. The heavens are open and finances are coming. My rent is paid. You need to start making declarations. When you make a declaration, you re-establish your confidence in God and his mighty angel armies to fight on your behalf. Declaration. And finally, finally, we keep rank and we remain consistent. We get up and we do it all over again tomorrow. Stay in your lane, wait your turn, and do it all over again tomorrow. In this season, militancy and consistency is required for breakthrough at the gates. Let us be like Nehemiah and so many others. Let us remember the assignment at hand to mind the gates, manage the gate, build, and demonstrate the kingdom. Let us keep our eyes on those gates. Let us keep our eyes on those walls. Let us build and defend as we establish God's plans in 2025 and beyond. I hope you guys got something this evening. I hope you took many, many notes. And I decree and I declare that you're coming into that place of seeing, believing, and knowing that you're a son and walking it out in confidence. Until my next video, until my next broadcast, I'm Apostle Marsha Pedro saying, live your life with passion. Live your life in pursuit of